Now, our mission here is to make sure that you and your partner are working together as a team when it comes to your finances. But we often get asked this question of how do we do that, or how can I do that if my partner is completely switched off when it comes to money? They don't want to be involved. I'm the only one in our relationship who's really keen to kind of put ourselves in a better financial position. How do I get my partner on board when it comes to our finances? And this happens in various different reasons, right? It might be maybe you're trying to get out of debt and you're really up for it. You're really wanting to do that, but your partner is just not really, they're not feeling it. They're not really signed up to that. Or maybe you want to actually get a better handle of your finances because you've realized that our spending is way out of control. We're living a different lifestyle to what our income actually is. And you're trying to, close the gap and make sure that you are in a better financial position, but your partner just doesn't seem to be interested in doing that with you. So how do we move forward as a team? And so today we're going to share with you our thoughts on that, just how, what things we might do to get each other on board if we ever needed to. And hopefully this will help you to then turn things around in your relationship in some way, shape or form. Just as a disclaimer, we've actually personally never really had this problem. We've kind of always been on the same page when it comes to finances, but that's because we spoke about money from early on in our relationship. So we didn't just kind of magically make it work. We've still had to put in the work for us to work together as a team. And so we're going to share with you some of the things that we've done to hopefully help you to do the same in your relationship as well. So how do we do that? How do they do that?
I think it's very tough to be in a situation where you're in a relationship, technically in a partnership, with someone who maybe one of you is like, yeah, I'm really on it. Like this money thing, we need to get it together. But the other person's like, can't be bothered. Like, yeah, we'll pay the bills, whatever. You sort that out. I'll just be here. You sort it out, and type of thing. And I think from the get go, we need to be mindful of the fact that money does answer to everything. So your bills need money. If you've got children, your children need money. If you're going on holiday, your holidays need money. But if it's just you that's then having to deal with it on your own, that's already a lot. Because why, this is my personal opinion, why is it with everything else with the relationship, maybe you're already like, okay, we'll do that together. We'll plan the holiday together. We'll pay for the children's stuff together. We'll have discussions about this, that, and the other together. But when it comes to money, now that's your thing. It's already a tough thing. Like, I would always encourage couples, don't let money, if anything, don't let money come between you and your partner. Don't let it come in between your relationship because it's already tough. But if you are finding yourself in that situation, my first thing would probably be find out what your partner's relationship with money was like before you got together, or even in their upbringing. Because, for example, when I was growing up, it was the norm for my grandmother, because I lived with my grandparents, it was the norm for my grandmother to take care of the um, household bills and household finances. Everything was in her name. So she used to take care of everything. And then it was the norm for my grandfather to spend his money as he felt like it. So you can imagine growing up in that sort of environment. Had I come into our relationship with a similar mindset, like, actually, forget that. Tando, you take care of the bills and that. Whatever I make, I'm going to go enjoy outside. We would have been on polar opposites already beginning the relationship, so it would have been hard. But if you don't know that about your partner, you're probably thinking, this one genuinely doesn't want to help out, like, or doesn't want to work with me on the bills. But it might just be something it might be the environment that they grew up in. It might be the situations that they were faced with when they were a child. And maybe it's like, because they were so used to it, it's so ingrained in them, it seems so normal to them, but you don't realize that. You're just thinking they just don't want to help.
Yeah, and for me, one of the benefits of going down this path is that you're learning more about your partner.
Yeah.
And the reason why this is powerful is that by doing so, you then learn the best approach to take with your partner. And to be honest, this takes a bit of like humility almost. Like you have to step outside of your own, pedestal, your own ego, your own sort of feelings for a moment and just Just be like, okay, let me understand what they went through. Ask some questions like, what was money like in your upbringing?
Mm,
What was it like for your parents? What are some of the key money lessons or that you kind of learned from your parents or learned around the environment that you grew up in? And then you might even just start to appreciate why they are the way they are.
yeah.
But then in doing so, like I said, you then understand, the way they think, the way they are. Then that gives you some understanding really of, okay, what kind of communication style would work for them, what kind of things would work for
Yeah.
for them to then understand what I'm trying to say. Because the honest truth right now, if you're feeling the way you're feeling and you're watching this, chances are you've been going headstrong. You've been saying, let's do this, let's do this, let's do this, and it hasn't been received the way you wanted it to be
Yeah.
received because your partner's thinking something else. And so for you to communicate the same message but just in a different way, you kind of have to kind of repackage it in a way that they would receive it. And sometimes it's not even just about like your tone of voice or the words you use. Sometimes just simply just in the way that you actually communicate to them, as in talk to them in the way that they will understand. So
Yeah.
as an example, with, like you said, Lindy, she'll grow up in a household where grandmother was taking care of everything and grandfather kind of did his own thing. So she didn't grow up in an environment where she saw a husband and a wife talking together
Yeah.
about money and making financial decisions together, whereas I did. My parents did that. So when we came into our marriage and our relationship, I kind of then had to teach her, or at least explain to her, like, okay, I understand that this is where you were raised, but this is how I was raised and I've seen it happen in play. Now, I didn't just say that. Obviously, it was a number of different conversations, but by us having that discussion around our upbringings and both of us then understanding the differences in our upbringings, we were then able to figure out, oh, okay, so that's why you're like this, and that's why I'm like this, and that's why
Right.
you prefer this way, and I prefer this way. But actually, now that we've opened the box, we actually then started to ask questions like, so what should we do moving forward?
Yeah.
How should we work together moving forward from here on? What kind of things would we want to take from what we learned on our upbringings, but what kind of things do we want to leave in the past? The second thing I'd say you should do is to aim to make financial decisions together.
Yeah.
And this includes even the smallest of decisions, even if it's literally as small as like, okay, how much should we spend on this food shop that we're about to go on? What do you think is a reasonable amount to spend for the next week of groceries? Things like that. You're starting to have conversations where you're both involved in the conclusion of the matter,
Yeah.
and then you essentially involving them in that way, but particularly in the decision making process. Because what typically happens in this scenario sometimes as well is that if, say, for example, I'm the partner who's really in tune with it and you're not,
Yeah.
what then ends up happening sometimes is that I make decisions by myself.
Yeah.
Because I'm thinking, well, you're not really into it. So if I decide and then I just inform you when I've made the decision, or I just tell you,
It's fine.
if I do tell you that is, then that's okay. But actually, the first step to your partner feeling involved is them having a voice.
Yeah.
And the way you give them that voice, or ensure that you both have a voice, really, is that you make financial decisions together.
I feel like if I was in that situation and then you started involving me, I'd start to feel like, oh, actually, this allows us to work together. It's like the little things sometimes that we don't realize make a very big difference. And I'd probably get to a point where I'm like, actually, because you are involving me, I want to be involved in more. I want to be involved in more decisions. I want to be involved more when you're budgeting. I want to be involved more when we're making financial decisions for the two of us or for our family and stuff.
Mm.
Involving them makes like what you're saying, involving your partner then definitely makes them feel like actually my opinion also matters. Like what we're deciding, we're working together as a team, it also matters. So I definitely be very big on you doing that because it helps you guys grow as a couple as well.
Yeah, and if you're in a position where you're thinking my partner would never do that because they're really switched off when it comes to money, then another idea is to involve them with the decision making process, but to kind of verbally just say, okay, I'm thinking about making this decision and doing this and doing that. What are your opinions on that? What do you think? What value
Yeah.
do you have to play? And in the beginning, it might feel like you're talking to walls because they're just not interested, or like they don't really give any valuable input and just simply say to you, yeah, go ahead and do that. But over time,
Yeah.
that might change. I can't promise that it will, but it might change. They might start to just shed a bit of like, oh, actually, yeah, that sounds good, but what about this? Or I don't know, what about this? And then now you're starting to do things when it comes to money decisions together, essentially.
Yeah, absolutely. And I feel like another thing you could potentially do is to um maybe direct them to books that you've read that have helped, or podcasts that you've listened to, influencers that you actually are following and like, and feel like, actually, if my partner was to hear this, it might stir up something in them that makes them want to get involved with our finances. And I feel like sometimes when you're hearing something from your own partner, you may be a bit like, oh, yeah, I've heard this too many times. I'm not really interested.
Yeah.
But them hearing it from another person, or hearing another couple's story or another couple's testimony, might actually cause them to think different and just be like, oh, so this is what so and so are doing, and it's genuinely working for their relationship, and they're genuinely getting positive results from it. Maybe I could soften up a bit and we try this in our relationship and it could help the both of us. And I feel like sometimes maybe you need that outsider, you need the outside person, you need the book, you need the influencer, you need someone else to then come in and say, yeah, try, why don't you try this? Like, because sometimes when you're constantly hearing the same thing from your partner, you just feel like, yeah, this person just keeps talking and I'm tired of hearing their voice. But it does help to then get that outside perspective if you need it.
Facts. Another powerful thing to do is to show your partner the results of a certain decision. So going back to that earlier example that we mentioned, which is that you're trying to pay off your debts and your partner just isn't on board. Well, if you show them the results, as Linda said, of other people who have achieved that, or maybe you show them your personal debts that you've paid off yourself and say, look, this is what I've done with my credit card. We can do that with ours or with yours or whatever the case is. You know, when you show them the results of the thing that you're not just speaking, but they can see that you're putting it into action as well, that actually goes a long way. It speaks volumes. It speaks volumes when they see you putting into practice the thing that you're saying. Because, you know, you can imagine this scenario where you're the partner saying, we need to be serious about our money. But then equally speaking, you're also spending your money carelessly as they are. You know, they might be like, yeah, you're talking, but when I look at, you know, your lifestyle, when I look at the decisions that you're making as well,
it's completely different.
It's completely different.
Yeah.
But if they see you living out in practice the thing that you're essentially preaching to them, that might be the game changer that they need. That might be the thing that turns them around to say, yeah, you know what? You're not just talking. Like, you're actually living out the thing that you're saying we should be doing, and you're you know, you're really standing by it. So sometimes it might be awkward where they're like, let's get a takeaway. You're like, no, let's not get a takeaway because, you know, we're saving money. And they say, well, I'm going to get one. You say, that's fine, you go ahead, but I'm not going to get one because I want to, you know, be serious about this debt freedom journey. So the money that you were going to use to buy my takeaway, transfer that to the credit card. And that you know, it sounds it sounds very interesting, but that kind of decision might just be the change that they need to see before they can feel like, okay, let me change my ways as well.
Absolutely. And I definitely think it's like we said before, it's not easy to be in this situation. Like, I wouldn't wish to be in this situation. And I definitely feel for people who find themselves in this situation. But as always, we'd love to hear what some of you have done. If you found yourself in this situation before, hit us up in the comments. Let us know what you have done if you found yourself in this situation. You could be helping someone else who's really feeling like, you know, I'm at my end point at this point because I've tried and nothing's happening. So we hope what we've had to share has been useful for you. And as always, if you're not already subscribed, like the video, and we'll definitely catch you next time.